Odysseus, the hero who was able to return.
Have you ever been completely, utterly lost? I don't mean take a wrong turn lost. I mean soul-crushingly, hope-erodingly adrift. The kind where you can't remember what home feels like and everyone you love might have given up on you. We're talking about a story that's 2,800 years old, a foundational myth, a classic we're supposed to respect. So why does it feel so alarmingly modern? Why does it still get to us? What if I told you the most famous 10-year journey in history didn't actually take 10 years? Not in the story we read. What we call the Odyssey, the book, the poem, the epic, all of its action, from its tense beginning to its bloody end, is compressed into a single frantic make-or-break window. That's it. 10 years of suffering, 10 years of monsters and goddesses and shipwrecks are just a story within a story. A flashback. The real drama, the ticking clock, is a desperate 6-week race against oblivion back on the home front. Homer didn't just give us an adventure tale. He engineered a masterpiece of suspense, using the oldest trick in the book. He started at the very end of the rope, just before it snaps. And for 2,800 years, we've been clinging to it, white-knuckled, wondering if the hero will make it. But here's the real question that kept me up. Why him? Why does Odysseus, this liar, this prideful strategist, this guy who sleeps with a goddess while his wife weaves, why does he resonate more than the perfect, noble Achilles? What secret about human nature did Homer bury in this tale of a man trying to get back to his couch? The answer is more unsettling and more brilliant than you think.
Let's rewind to the moment that doomed him. It's not the Trojan horse. It's not angering Poseidon by blinding his son, the Cyclops Polyphemus. That's the how. The why is something uglier, and it happens right after the clever deed is done. Odysseus and his men are sailing away from the Cyclops' island. They've escaped the cave. They've blinded the monster. They should be silent ghosts, vanishing into the fog. But Odysseus can't help himself. His ego swells. As his ship pulls to a safe distance, he shouts back to the blinded, raging Polyphemus.
"Hey, if anyone asks who did this to you," he yells, his voice carrying over the waves, "tell them it was Odysseus, sacker of cities, son of Laertes from Ithaca." It's a boast, a signature, a primal need for glory, and it's catastrophically stupid. Because now Polyphemus has a name to pray to his father, Poseidon, for vengeance. This one moment of unchecked pride earns him a decade of torment. This isn't just a mistake. This is the core contradiction of the man. Modern scholars and psychologists have a field day with Odysseus. He's been called the untypical hero. He's not pure strength like Ajax or pure rage like Achilles. He's something more complex and, frankly, more familiar. He's a shapeshifter, a storyteller, a survivor who will become whoever he needs to be. A beggar, a pirate, a grieving stranger. Some analysts, digging deep, land on a fascinating archetype, the trickster. Think about it. The trickster is a boundary crosser. Clever, creative, but also chaotic, amoral, and often his own worst enemy. He breaks rules to expose their absurdity. He's Loki, he's Bugs Bunny. He's the part of us that knows how to talk our way out of a ticket, but also the part that can't resist pushing things too far just to see what happens. Odysseus is the Greek epic's encapsulation of this raw human energy. His genius and his flaw are the same thing. A mind that can't stop calculating, can't stop playing the game even when the game is over. This is why we connect with him more than with flawless paragons. We see ourselves in his brilliant plans and his cringe-worthy blunders. We've all been the clever one who got away with something, and we've all been the fool who couldn't resist taking a victory lap. But if the journey is just a backdrop, a narrated punishment for his ego, where's the real story? Where's the suspense? That brings us to the second and more brilliant structural trick.
While Odysseus is trapped, narrating his past glories and failures on a luxurious Phaeacian couch, his kingdom is being systematically dismantled. This is the real-time plot, the 40-day crisis. Over 100 suitors have invaded his palace. They're drinking his wine, slaughtering his livestock, and harassing his servants, all while demanding his wife, Penelope, choose one of them as a new husband and king. His son, Telemachus, is a young man paralyzed by his father's absence, powerless to stop them. His father, Laertes, has retired to the countryside in grief, and Penelope, she's running the greatest delaying tactic in literary history, promising to choose a husband when she finishes weaving a funeral shroud for Laertes and then unweaving it every single night. The home is under siege. The legacy is being consumed. The identity of Odysseus is being erased in his own house. This is the brilliant narrative split. We have two parallel journeys. Odysseus the man, physically trying to get home, wrestling with external monsters and his own nature. Odysseus the idea, being destroyed at home. His memory, his authority, his very place in the world is vanishing. The suspense doesn't come from if he gets home. In a myth, we know he will. The suspense comes from what's left when he arrives. Will he be a king without a kingdom? A husband to a remarried wife? A father to a son who doesn't know him? The 40-day clock is counting down to a potential nothingness. And this is where the story elevates from a man versus nature adventure to a deep psychological study of what home and self even mean after profound trauma. To win, he can't just sail. He has to reinvent himself one last crucial time. When his Phaeacian rescuers finally drop him, asleep, on the shores of Ithaca, he doesn't recognize it. The land of his dreams is a foreign country, and Athena, his divine patron, doesn't give him a hero's welcome. She meets him and immediately does the most important thing. She disguises him. She transforms the king of Ithaca into a wrinkled, ragged, pathetic old beggar. This isn't a setback. It's the ultimate strategy. It's the final, perfected form of the trickster. To save his home, he must cease to be Odysseus. He must become nobody, the same fake name he used to fool the Cyclops. He has to walk through his own palace, be insulted by the suitors, have furniture thrown at him, and beg for scraps. He has to see the absolute truth of his absence. He has to witness his wife's quiet despair and his son's simmering rage firsthand, without the filter of his royal authority. This is the brutal genius core of the homecoming. He doesn't conquer his home with an army, he infiltrates it. The final test isn't against a monster, but against his own ego. Can the man who shouted his name to the heavens now endure being spat upon in his own courtyard without revealing himself? It's a masterclass in self-restraint, the flip side of his cunning. He only reveals himself in stages. First to his son Telemachus in a profoundly moving scene where the boy must accept that this beggar is the father he never knew. Then in the famous contest of the bow, where only the true Odysseus could string his own mighty weapon, he reveals himself to the suitors, now with words, but with an act of terrifying, ruthless skill, and the slaughter begins. But the most profound reunion is the last one, with Penelope. She has heard the commotion. She knows the beggar won the contest and killed the suitors. They tell her it's Odysseus, and she doesn't believe it. After 20 years, after 100 tricks of her own, she trusts nothing. So she tests him. She orders their marriage bed to be moved. Odysseus, in a flash of genuine outrage, blurts out the truth. That bed is built from a living olive tree, rooted in the earth of their courtyard. It is immovable, a secret known only to them. That's the moment, not the battle, that private, intimate secret. The recognition isn't based on his face or his deeds, but on shared memory, on the foundational truth of their life together. After all the shape-shifting, after being a hero, a captive, a lover, a beggar, and a killer, he is finally, simply, her husband, the man who knows about the bed. So what's the real Odyssey?
It's not the catalog of monsters. The Sirens, Scylla and Charybdis, Circe, they're spectacular obstacles, but they're metaphors. The Sirens are the temptation of easy, seductive stories that make you forget your purpose. Scylla and Charybdis are the impossible choices where you must accept loss to survive. Circe is the allure of comfortable oblivion, of giving up the struggle. The real journey is the internal one. It's a struggle of a brilliant, flawed man to shed the armor of his wartime self, the sacker of cities, and remember how to be a person, a member of a family, a node in a web of relationships rather than a lone operator. We remember the Odyssey not because it shows us how to fight a Cyclops, but because it shows us what we're fighting for and what we risk losing in the process. It asks the hardest question. After you've been changed forever by your trials, who are you when you finally get back? And will anyone, even yourself, recognize the person you've become? The story endures because home is the ultimate moving target. It's not just a place, it's a version of yourself you're constantly trying to return to, rebuild, or reconcile with. Odysseus' 40-day sprint and 10-year backstory is, in the end, the story of all of us trying to find our way back through the chaos of our own choices, our own pride, and our own time spent adrift. And maybe that's the final twist. The greatest monster he had to defeat was the hero he used to be.